You know, photography, it's timeless, cinematic, natural, authentic, documentary, romantic, fine art. You know, there's a lot of words you could use to describe what you do. And photographers use these words on all types of client facing marketing, such as their websites, their social media profiles, advertisements, inquiry guides, business cards, the About Me page, because they help us describe the photography we create. You know, each word also begins forming an expectation. A prospect may read natural and imagine that very little posing may be involved. Maybe they read timeless and picture in their mind a portrait that will stand or still belong on the wall decades from now, generations from now. They may read documentary and expect the photographer to observe rather than direct. They may read fine art and expect a portrait shaped by a strong artistic concept and created to become finished artwork. A photographer could be using a word, but it have a different meaning to your prospect. The language surrounding your photography helps clients decide what you create from their point of view, how the experience may feel from their point of view, and whether your approach fits what they want. So I'm asking you, do your words match your work? Hey there, Lens Legends. Welcome to another episode of the Portrait Profit Show, where we focus on the business side of photography. I'm your host, Jim Landers, your guide on the business side. The Portrait Profit Show is brought to you by Digital Pro Lab and Landers Photography School. For Digital Pro Lab, Amanda and her amazing, wonderful team are going to make you look like a hero. And it's just by default because Amanda hires fantastic people. When you work with Digital Pro Lab, you're going to be proud. You're going to be proud of the work. You're going to be proud of saying, I work with Digital Pro Lab. And I thoroughly encourage you to go to digitalprolab.com, and I'll put that here on the screen so that you can see it. Digitalprolab.com. Go there and experience the difference. You're going to be impressed. Digitalprolab.com. This show is also sponsored by Landers Photography School. That's my company. And I teach both the photography side and the business side, although I do spend most of my time on the business side nowadays because, well, a lot of photographers are having difficulty making a profit. And it's something I thoroughly enjoy doing. Obviously, the title of the show is called The Portrait Profit Show. So clearly I have an interest in that side of things. But reach out to me and reach out to me at jim@portraitprofits.com. Jim@portraitprofits.com. I'll set up a meeting with you. We'll talk for just a little while about your goals, your direction, and see if I can help you with that direction. Jim@portraitprofits.com. I also want to encourage you to make comments and ask questions throughout the discussion. Speaking of comments, I want you to go to the comments section right now and enter in hashtag live. Hashtag live. That makes me know that you're here. That causes me to know that. Now, you may be watching on Facebook. You may be watching on LinkedIn or YouTube. You're not watching today on Instagram because for some reason I was not able to make a post on Instagram today. Haven't had that happen before, but happened today. So Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, you're watching this on one of those channels. We're simulcast to several different places. So enter in hashtag live. Now, if you're watching the replay, enter in hashtag replay. Hashtag replay. And I also request that you share the Portrait Profits Show. And that's easy to do. You either tag someone you know, or you just click that share button if you're on Facebook. It makes it pretty darn easy. Speaking of Facebook, I'm going to go to Facebook right now. There we go. I'm also getting thirsty. That's good. You know, photography, or maybe I should say photography style, is often discussed through the decisions that's visible in our photographs. So maybe we're considering lighting, color, composition, posing, expression, wardrobe, location, lens choice, editing, retouching, the presentation that happens afterwards. Together, these choices shape the appearance and emotional character of your work. Potential clients, or I'll often refer to them as prospects, may encounter our description of the work that we do before they spend much time really studying those choices. A photographer may discover or a person may discover a photographer through a social media profile that's describing the work. Maybe it's relaxed and natural. They may arrive at a website promising timeless family portraiture or cinematic senior portraits, romantic wedding photography, documentary family stories, polished business portraits. There's all kinds of descriptions. But those descriptions provide an early framework for everything that follows. A photograph may appear more formal, more emotional, more artistic, more spontaneous. It would be because of the language placed around it. The words can also influence whether someone continues exploring your business, whether they recognize a connection and decide to inquire. Photography style descriptors explain the look, the feeling, the approach, and the emotional character of your work. And although they sound artistic, they also influence business positioning. They influence client expectations, the quality of your inquiries, price perception, product possibilities, client fit. So you have a really good reason to choose those words carefully. An appealing description can attract attention, but an accurate one creates understanding. So style language becomes part of the business promise. So let's talk about that. Chapter 1. By the way, if you'd like a handout of this or any of the Portrait Profit shows, just reach out to me, jim@portraitprofits.com, and let me know that you want the handout. And by the way, I send it for free, and I give you a suggested donation of $10. You don't have to pay for it. I'd rather you have the information than you didn't have the information. But it does come with a suggested donation, but it could be zero. It doesn't. I'm not doing the accounting. All right. So chapter 1, the language surrounding your photography. Now, before deciding whether your words match your work, begin by looking at the language that you're using. So how are you describing your work? Review your website. How is it written, or your social media profiles, your About Me page? If you have an inquiry guide, maybe you have advertisements or some kind of printed materials, any place where you describe your photography, I want you to look at what you have written down or what you're saying to people if you don't have anything written down yet. But I want you to write down those words or phrases that you've included. And then with that list, I want you to take a look at the photographs that you're currently showing in your portfolio or however you're showing your images. And I want you to ask yourself a simple question. Is the language and the work that you're showing helping a prospect form the correct understanding of your business? Do your words help a prospect form the correct understanding of your business? Now, I know that you devote considerable effort to improving your photography. You're probably taking classes, watching YouTube videos. You're studying lighting. You're refining your posing. You're strengthening communication with your clients. You're developing your editing style. You're working towards a more recognizable body of work. You may also spend hours choosing portfolio images, removing photographs that no longer represent your direction. The words that are placed around those images influence how the portfolio is understood. It isn't just photographs. It's the words you use to describe you and them, the photographs. Now, I have seen photographers do some odd things. I'm not the only one. You have too. I've seen photographers present carefully controlled studio portraiture and describe it as spontaneous. Yeah. I've seen others use documentary, the word documentary, even though most of their portfolio was clearly posed and directed. I've seen some promise a distinctive custom visual style while applying the same recognizable Lightroom presets to nearly every image. I've seen others promise timelessness while showing images with obvious trends, which easily identify when the photograph was created. I'm sure you've seen this too. The images and the language. Now, I understand you may be doing it for purposes of the search engines finding you better, but if it doesn't describe what you do, it isn't as helpful as you think. In fact, it's probably harming you. The images and the language may be appealing, yet together they can describe different expectations. Prospects don't research the professional or historical meaning of your language. They interpret the words through their own experiences, their own preferences, their own assumptions. For instance, the word natural. I mean, this one's a good example. All of them are really. But one person may understand it to mean photography that's created outdoors with sunlight. Another may associate it with believable expressions and comfortable interaction. Maybe someone else refers to realistic color, minimal retouching, or visible skin texture. A person who feels uncertain in front of a camera may wonder whether a natural session means that you'll provide very little direction. And that may be the exact thing they need. And so they move on to the next photographer. So therefore, you may have an entirely different understanding than the people who are coming to see your work on your social medias, on your website, whatever. So the word natural may describe the finished appearance rather than the method used to create it. It means a lot of different things. So going to have to be a little bit more descriptive. I mean, you may choose the location carefully, coordinate clothing, shape the light, arrange the family with intention, improve posture, and guide expression and interaction. Your experience allows the structure behind the portrait to become less visible in the final result. So a portrait can feel natural because you directed it well. How about the word candid? I mean, it creates a similar opportunity for understanding, although it's not the same. You may use the word candid to describe an expression that feels spontaneous, even though the moment grew from thoughtful guidance. You may place people in flattering light, position them within a strong composition, and encourage an interaction that produces the candid expression. I mean, that approach differs from observing a completely unplanned moment. Both can produce meaningful photographs, but they describe different working methods, different thoughts in your head. That's why some of the words you use are not helping you. We just need to be a little more thoughtful and careful with them and the descriptions of them, and not assume that anyone knows what it is you mean. Let's move to chapter 2. By the way, if you haven't already, entering hashtag live, letting me know that you're watching the show live right now. You feeling this? You hearing me? Is this meaning something to you? Put the word yes in the comments. Let me know that you're watching. Let me know that you're paying attention, that this means something to you just by entering the word yes in the comments. Now, chapter 2. Here's what prospects may hear. I mean, you are naturally drawn to words that sound appealing. You, as in you're a human, you are naturally drawn to words that sound appealing. So maybe timeless means valuable. Maybe cinematic means artistic. Maybe authentic means honest. Fine art, elevated. Documentary, real. Natural has kind of a comfortable sound to it. Romantic sounds beautiful. Prospects often hear more than the adjective itself. They begin imagining the service that may accompany it. When you describe a session as relaxed, a prospect may expect preparation that reduces uncertainty, communication that feels reassuring, and direction that doesn't feel harsh or rigid. If your planning process is unclear or the person is left to imagine every detail themselves, they're not the pro here. You are. So the portraits may appear relaxed while the experience they are picturing feels quite different. How about the word polished? Polished may suggest thoughtful preparation, professional control, careful finishing, attention to how the photographs will eventually be used. A prospect looking for business portraits may expect images suitable for a website, a proposal, a press kit, a speaker's page, for some form of publication, for their professional profile. The term can describe both the appearance of the portrait and the completeness of the service. It may mean one or the other to you, or it may mean both. It may mean one or the other to your prospect, or it may mean both. How about story-based or story-driven photography? That may lead to a family It may lead a family to expect that you will learn something about their relationships, their personality, their history, or the current place where they are in their life right now. But I have seen several photographers choose a location over the phone and a time and just show up and press the button just like they would for any other family that they would be photographing. Now, is that bad? No. What I'm saying is your client may have a different picture in their mind than what you have in yours. So let's say they wanted it storytelling style, but you didn't find out about them. You didn't learn about their relationships, the things that they're proud of, the things that they look forward to in their future. You didn't do that. So even if you provide a fantastic collection of photographs, if those photographs don't help tell a story, well, then they may not fulfill what the prospect, now client, imagined when they first encountered that description, that word. So style language, that's what we're talking about, style language, can influence the questions people ask and a lot of other things. Someone drawn to heirloom portraiture may ask about albums, wall art, framing, long-term preservation. A person interested in documentary family photography may ask how much direction you give and how you deliver the complete story. A business owner may be looking for polished and approachable portraits that, they may want to know how you prepare the photographs for the different professional uses that they may have. So style language assists with fit in finding the ideal clients. A prospect looking for formal studio portraiture may respond positively to words such as classic, elegant, refined, composed. Someone else may be drawn to words like playful, energetic, spontaneous, documentary, candid. Each person is using the available language to recognize the experience they want. Your business becomes easier to understand when your words give prospects a truthful preview, a good picture in their mind. You're then more likely to receive inquiries from people who already appreciate the approach that you offer. Let's talk about style language as positioning. Positioning helps people understand where your business belongs, who it is you serve, and what distinguishes your work from the other available choices. Style language contributes to that understanding by adding character, intention, and purpose to the basic description of your service. I'm going to give you 3 statements. I want you to listen to each one of these and consider these statements that each describe a family photography business. And I want you to notice that each one gives a prospect a different amount of information. Each one is true if this is a family portrait photographer, but each one of these 3 is going to give a different amount of information. I want you to just picture in your mind what, with these statements, I haven't given them to you yet, I'm about to, what picture you get in your mind with each one of these. Hang on a second. All right. Here's the first. I take family pictures. Here's the second. I create relaxed, natural family portraits. And the third, I create timeless family portraiture designed to be displayed in the home and preserved for future generations. The first identifies the category, family portraits. The second begins describing the feeling of the experience and the appearance of the result. So it makes it kind of a good, better, best comparison here because that's better. But the third introduces longevity, display, family meaning, and a completed purpose for the portrait. Now, does that mean the person who describes theirs as the third description is better than the other two photographers? No, their service may be very similar at a basic level, but the perceived feeling, picture in the mind of the prospect is quite different. The perceived offer changes as the language becomes more specific. Price perception may change with it. I mean, you may say, there's no one in my area who will pay that amount. I've heard those words so many times. Yeah, there are. Your language may be taking them away from you, though. When you describe your work as polished, refined, intentional, maybe full service, although there's very few full service photographers, very few. That's extremely rare. Full service means you give no work to your client, meaning you frame the images, you install them on the wall. That's full service. So you can imagine there's very few of those. But as you describe yourself in these ways, polished, refined, intentional, you establish a different expectation from someone describing their work as quick or casual or spontaneous, affordable. Those descriptions can belong to different business models serving people with different priorities. None's better than the other. We just have to make sure that we are describing what we do in a way that creates a clear picture in someone's mind. Neither position gains strength merely by using more impressive words. Strength comes from agreement between the description and the business behind it. Elevated language can imply a level of planning or a level of service that maybe you don't want to provide. But then again, casual language can create the opposite problem by concealing the depth of preparation, guidance, and finished artwork already included in your experience. If you create heirloom wall portraits, you may benefit from words connected to permanence, family history, quality, display, continuity. Language centered on speed, temporary use, casual or casual delivery could make the offer feel different from what you actually hoped to provide. If you create documentary work, let's talk documentary family photography. You may emphasize daily life, real relationships, meaningful activity, and the preservation of a family's story. How about carefully directed studio work? Similar, but different vocabulary. Business portraits may be described as confident, approachable, polished, credible, purposeful. These words can help a prospect see the portrait as a business asset rather than simply a headshot or a photograph of their face, something that they have to do. This will be something that they want to do because of how it elevates them. How about a person who wants highly stylized, dramatic portraiture? They may not be drawn to work described as casual or documentary. Someone looking for observation of family life may not connect with formal studio portraiture. Clear differences allow prospects to make informed choices. They also allow you to build a business around the work that you want to create, the things that make you happy and bring you joy. You guys resonating with this? But yes, in the comments. And if you have anything you want to add it in the comment section. I can see there are a bunch here. I have not checked the comments yet, so maybe I should take a look at those. There's a lot of you guys here. This is awesome. Excellent. Hmm. All right. So all right. I won't have time to go through all of these, but there's definitely some good ones in there. By the way, if you haven't already, enter in hashtag live, letting me know that you're watching live. All right, let's move to chapter 4 of 6. So we're already past the halfway point. Let's see, where is it? There we go. Photography style descriptors often carry several legitimate meanings. Your portfolio, your process, and your presentation give each word its specific meaning within your business. Now, I've there's so many of them. I've chosen 7. I don't have time to go through every single descriptor that we could possibly come up with, and so I've come up with 7. In fact, I did a search and asked it to find the most common descriptors for portrait photographers. And these are not in the same order it gave it to me, but these are the top 7 that the search came up with. So the first is timeless. Again, not in any order. Timeless. Timeless portraiture is generally created with the intention that the photograph remain visually appropriate and personally meaningful beyond the trends of the present. Timeless may be expressed through clothing, maybe through restrained editing, clean composition, professional framing. You may connect it with formal posing, controlled lighting, archival products, but that would be a you thing. It all is based on what you think the word means. You just have to do a good job of conveying that. Maybe a more modern portrait. It doesn't have to, um, a a timeless photograph does not have to be, uh, doesn't have to have an old-fashioned look to it to possess longevity. Modern portraits possess longevity just as much as any other portrait. You're considering whether clothing, props, retouching, color treatments, composition, and presentation will continue to serve that portrait years from now. When timelessness is part of your business promise, it can influence the complete process: wardrobe guidance, lighting design, expression, posing, editing, artwork size, print quality, framing, placement of the photograph on the wall, all contribute to the final result. So that was timeless. How about the second one I'm bringing to you is cinematic? That has become a more popular one over the past 10, 20 years. Cinematic photography may draw from the visual and emotional language of movies, motion pictures. It can include dramatic lighting. I say it can include, doesn't have to, but it can include dramatic lighting, atmosphere, movement, environmental scale, storytelling, It could be rich in color, it could be restrained in color, or maybe it has a sense that the photograph belongs to a larger scene. You may create cinematic work with strong directional light and deep shadows. You may use wide compositions that place the person within a meaningful environment. You may rely on movement, expression, color to suggest what happened before the frame and what might happen next after it. Next one is romantic. Romantic photography may communicate tenderness, affection, intimacy, nostalgia, beauty, passion, maybe a storybook feeling. It can be appropriate for couples, weddings, engagements, maternity portraiture, or any work centered around emotional closeness. So, a soft, delicate version of romance. It's going to look and feel um, that way and it's going to be built around drama, built around passion, clothing, location, light, posing, expression, color, and of course retouching all help a prospect understand which version of that you create of romantic, because romantic can also describe the way you see people rather than simply the way you edit images. A gentle interaction, a meaningful gesture, a sense of admiration between two people. I mean, that may communicate the quality more effectively than any Lightroom preset that you've bought. Next word, natural. Natural can describe light. It can describe expression, interaction, color, retouching, environment. It can also describe the overall ease of the photography. This term is broad. You may need to explain how it functions in your work. You may create natural expressions through careful conversations and guidance. You may work primarily with available light. That's also natural. You may use the term to describe restraining your retouching or giving it realistic color. A prospect who feels comfortable in front of the camera may appreciate knowing that a natural result still includes professional leadership, that you're going to handhold them through the process. I mean, they don't have to book already knowing how to pose, where to stand, what to do with their hands. Once they become your client, you can provide structure while preserving an appearance that feels believable and unforced. Natural. Lots of different meanings of that word. How about documentary? It's built around observing and preserving real moments or relationships or events or daily life, and has limited staging, limited direction, if at all. But you still make active decisions: timing, position, lens choice, composition, exposure, sequence. I mean, all these things are going to shape the result. The difference is that you usually respond to what is happening rather than constructing most of the scene. So this differs from placing a family in attractive light and prompting an interaction. I mean, that may produce a genuine emotion and a relaxed appearance, but it remains directed portraiture. About fine art. Fine art portraiture places strong emphasis on the concept, the interpretation, the artistic intention, mood, the finished presentation. You're creating the portrait as artwork with decisions that extend beyond just recording the person's appearance. It includes usually professional lighting, but it doesn't have to. Careful retouching, but it doesn't have to. Printing, framing. I mean, all these things contribute to the result. So these qualities can exist in many forms of portraiture. So the term becomes more meaningful when a clear concept or personal interpretation is also present in addition to the word. Fine art in this instance. You may use symbolism, set design, wardrobe, gesture, color, historical references, or a distinctive visual language to shape the final image. The finished presentation is often part of the artistic interpretation or the artistic intention. It's not just an afterthought. It was part of the deal from the beginning. You knew how it was going to be displayed is part of the process. It may have been where you started. Another word I found often was authentic. Authentic portraiture aims to create something believable about your subject's personality or their relationships, their identity, an experience that they're having. Planning, planning and authenticity sound like they don't exist together, but they do. A carefully designed portrait may still reveal something deeply true about a person. Lighting, posing, wardrobe, retouching, these all can support the subject instead of turning them into a generic version of everyone else in your portfolio. A technically correct pose may feel disconnected from the person you're photographing. Another pose may feel or may be equally controlled while allowing confidence, warmth, tenderness, dignity, honor, or maybe strength to come forward. So that authenticity comes from the relationships between your decisions and the person those decisions are intended to represent. All right, so those are the seven. There's so many more that I could go into, but I want to move on to building agreement across your business. You know, there have been many times where I've seen photographers describe themselves one way and then on another page on their website describe themselves in a different way because they're doing two different types of photography. So it makes sense, but we need some consistency here. I want to convey the same story. I don't want to confuse my prospects. The strongest style language is supported by the photographs in your client facing marketing. To the extent that a prospect can recognize the character in your work anywhere they look, anywhere it's displayed. If you describe your business as romantic, well, shouldn't the images communicate romance? Documentary language should be supported by a meaningful amount of observational photography. Timelessness should be visible in the editing, clothing, composition, expression, presentation. Consistency still allows variety, though. Your portfolio can include different people, environments, expressions, clothing, lighting patterns, compositions, while maintaining a recognizable point of view. Now, a gap becomes visible when the chosen word choices or the chosen words describes only a small portion of your work. I mean, you may call your business cinematic because of your absolute favorite image possesses that quality. But if most of your portfolio is bright, casual, maybe lightly directed, you may use documentary because several photographs include the spontaneous expressions, even though nearly every session is carefully arranged. Sometimes the language reveals the direction you want to pursue rather than the work your business currently shows. That realization can guide future portfolio development. Personal projects, styled sessions, model calls, selected client work can help you create a stronger body of work for the direction you want or the direction you're claiming. Your public description can become more specific as your portfolio becomes more consistent. The experience must continue the promise after a prospect becomes a client. You may describe your sessions as relaxed, but the client then encounters unclear preparation or rushed communication. maybe uncertainty about what's going to be happening next at multiple points throughout the client process. Maybe the finished photographs appeared relaxed, but their experience felt unnecessarily stressful. We've got a disconnect. A polished business should carry that quality through communication, planning, session leadership, retouching, ordering, delivery, and beyond. Story driven work benefits from learning about the people and relationships behind the session. Natural portraiture requires enough guidance to help clients move beyond self consciousness. Timeless portraiture invites thoughtful decisions about how the work will be preserved and displayed. The finished product adds another layer of meaning. A timeless family portrait may naturally connect to wall art, albums, framing, some type of enduring presentation. A documentary collection may find its strongest form in story based uh, products, such as an album, where relationships and sequences convey that story. How about a cinematic senior portrait session? This could lead to to dramatic statement pieces or an album that reveals several sides of a senior's personality. A polished business portrait may be prepared in specific sizes or crops and formats needed for those professional uses. So the word then describes more than the appearance of the photograph. It connects the promise made to the prospect with the experience delivered to the client and the purpose of the created or the completed work. And finally, the last chapter, choosing words that belong to your work. Now, you've been thinking about that through this entire lesson. I know, which is what I wanted you to do. Choosing style language can begin with a broad review of the photographs you repeatedly create. A few favorite images may show what you admire, while a larger body of work reveals the patterns that are already existing in your work, in your business. Your lighting might offer a place to begin. That doesn't necessarily mean studio lighting. Your work may tend to be soft, dramatic, contrasty, clean, luminous, directional. Maybe it's available light based, which is ambient light, or maybe it's highly controlled. Your composition may be formal, or maybe it's environmental. Maybe it's more intimate, more spacious, more layered, or maybe you just like it to be simple. The emotional character of your work may feel joyful, tender, confident, energetic, peaceful, romantic, reflective, powerful, playful. The level of direction may range from carefully posed to gently guided, activity based, observational, spontaneous, or maybe it's heavily stylized. Color and finishing, well, they're going to provide additional clues. Your work may be restrained, bold, warm, true to color, muted, rich, bright and airy, or moody. The intended use may point towards maybe albums, wall portraits, editorial publication, business credibility, family history, personal identity, generational preservation. You may eventually arrive at a phrase such as timeless, emotionally honest family portraiture, or polished and approachable business portraits. You may describe your work as cinematic senior portraiture with bold personality, or maybe you describe it as relaxed, story driven family portrait photography. A useful description does not need a long collection of adjectives. A few carefully chosen words communicate more than several attractive terms that wind up just competing with one another, at least in the client's or prospect's mind. One way to test a style descriptor is to complete the sentence. When I use this word, I mean, so let me give you an example. When I say timeless, I mean that I guide clients toward clothing, lighting, expression, composition, editing, and products that can remain appropriate and meaningful beyond current trends. Let me give you another example. How about natural? When I say natural, I mean that I provide careful direction while creating expressions and relationships that feel believable, not forced. When I say polished, I mean the work is planned, refined, professionally finished, and prepared for its intended use. Here's another example. When I say story driven, I mean that I seek to understand the relationships, identity, transition, or meaning the photographs are intended to preserve. So that explanation gives the word substance and helps determine whether it truly belongs in your business. Is it aligned? I mean, another place is your clients because they can provide useful language because they've experienced the complete process. They may say that the portraits feel elegant, that it really conveys that person, it really looks like them, it reveals genuine connection, it made them feel confident. Maybe it preserves something they were afraid of losing. Their responses show which qualities people actually notice and value after they've worked with you. You know, reviewing the places where your business describes the photography may reveal additional opportunities for clarity. Your website. You may promise timeless portraiture while your social media says fun and candid. Your inquiry guide may introduce luxury fine art while your About Me page describes documentary storytelling. We must convey a consistent message across all forms of client facing materials. The words that you choose, the words that remain, should accurately represent your photographs and help the right prospects recognize that fit. How you guys feeling about this? We're at the end, close to it. If you have resonated with anything I've said today, will you let me know in the comment section? Will you just say yes? Or, you know what? There's something called a like button, a love button, a hug button. There's, if you don't like something I said, there's a button for that too. But click that like button. Let me know that you're paying attention, that you're listening, that this my message is being conveyed to you. You, because you watch this show, are a lens legend. That's who you are from my point of view. I call those who watch my show lens legends. So as we close today, you do not need every popular style descriptor. By the way, as soon as I finish with this, I'm going to tell you what the next 3 Portrait Profit shows are going to be about. So stick around for that. That won't take me long at all to get to it. As we close today, you do not need every popular style descriptor. You need language that belongs to your work and helps people recognize your work's character, purpose, and value. Those descriptive words become most useful when your photographs, services, products, and presentation all support the same idea. So you need language that belongs to your work and helps people recognize its character, purpose, and value. Your words introduce the promise to the prospect. Your photographs demonstrate it. Your client experience carries it forward, and the finished work completes it. So I end with the question I started with. Do your words match your work? Hope you've enjoyed this show. And now I want to tell you about what's coming next. As you know, the Portrait Profit Show happens every single Monday, usually at noon, but on the second Monday of each month, we move it to 6:30 in the evening because some people can't make it at noon. And this is a live show. So this show is the one in the month that's at 6:30. All the rest are at noon. So the next three shows I'm going to be sharing with you are all at noon. So let's talk about the upcoming shows. In 1 week from today, this one is called, I'll put this up on the screen, From Card to Confidence. It's episode number 280. So you finish the session. You're confident that the images look great. Your client is excited. What happens next? So for many photographers, the next few steps are handled kind of more by habit than they are by a system. And if you've watched enough shows or taken enough classes from me, you know that I believe in creating systems for every step of your process. So what's the system here? Files get copied, cards get set aside, drives fill up, and everyone hopes that everything is where it's supposed to be when it's needed. That's not a system, guys. Let's talk about what happens after the session before the editing begins. That gap, that space right in there. Because confidence comes from knowing exactly where your files are, how they're protected, and what happens next. From Card to Confidence on July 20th at noon. Put it on your calendar. Do it now. You'll forget. 1 week after that is why beautiful images don't bring inquiries. Now, that doesn't mean they never do. But I guarantee you have posted some beautiful work and you got crickets. Beautiful portrait images may get people to pause, but how you convey what you do helps clients understand why they should hire you. We'll look at how to convey the meaning, care, experience, and value behind your custom portrait photography so that the right clients have a strong reason to inquire. That is 2 weeks from today, July 27th at noon. Why beautiful images don't bring inquiries. And the last one I'm going to share with you is the water method. Have you guys heard this? Probably not. This is one of mine. And so this didn't come from someone else and I'm adding to it. No, this is one of mine. The water method. I've described it before. However, I've not until recently given it a name. The water method. Now, this is based on you need income now, not some vague directive to market more. You need a practical path that you can act on today. The water method is a same day action plan for creating one real client conversation by going where movement is already most likely. It's simple, but it works. That is on August 3rd at noon, the water method. Now, again, every Monday at noon, with the exception of the second Monday of each month. But all these three that I've just mentioned, all three are at noon. Put it on your calendar now. You are busy. You've got a lot of things going on in your life. It is easy to forget the Portrait Profit Show. It's not easy to forget that you have a photography business, though. And you want to keep on growing. You want to keep learning. You don't want to stagnate. So put on your calendar the Portrait Profit Show, noon on Mondays. Lens Legends, I want to thank you for joining me at this episode of the Portrait Profit Show. You know, clear style language helps prospects recognize the fit and decide whether to inquire. And once they become clients, the complete experience should show them the promise was accurate. Thank you, Lens Legends, for your time and attention here today. And I also want to thank you for the hard work that you put in to building a photography business that really makes a difference. And it does make a difference, even though you don't see it all the time. And I'll see you next Monday for Landers Photography School and Digital Pro Lab. I'm Jim Landers, the host of the Portrait Profit Show, and I look forward to watching you grow. You guys are fantastic, awesome, wonderful people. Bye for now.